welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm very grateful to all of you here in our audience. Those of you watching on television, DVD, or listening on CD, welcome, and thank you for being here. It's a pleasure, a privilege, and truly an honor to be in your presence and have this opportunity to share with you very valuable insights and inspirations of a lifetime. I'm Dr. Arnold Nierenberg, 75 years of age, and 45 years of being a clinical psychologist. The title of today's class is The True Meaning of Life. The True Meaning of Life Advances in the Philosophy of Objectivism. The true meaning of life advances in the philosophy of objectivism. So an objectivism philosophy developed by Ayn Rand, and it's unusual because she didn't develop it specifically as a philosopher directly. She did it as a novelist, which is very unusual because she had extremely inspiring individuals in her novels. And she had the novels included Atlas Shrugged, Fountainhead, We the Living, The Virtue of Selfishness. And it's just brilliant and inspiring episodes and stories and inspirations. But there were certain principles inherent in those stories that became part of a philosophy known as of objectivism. Nathaniel Branden helped in developing it, and wrote really incredibly brilliant essays in developing it and seeing the implications to capitalism and to life, to politics, and to history. Just incredible work, absolutely incredible. The concepts that were there in the objectivist philosophy, and by the way, after I did my master's at Columbia in 1965, I would go to lectures from Ayn Rand and Nathaniel Branden at a very nice hotel in New York City, and they would be presenting their lectures there, and the room would just be packed. And those novels, many of which have been turned into movies, that they're very relevant, very inspirational, and the lessons are eternal. The principles apply today as much as then. But it's time to have some advances, which I'm offering, and that somebody has been involved in the early days of the movement, advances to the philosophy of objectivism. The concepts in objectivism there's very tremendous emphasis on the virtue of productiveness. So you had individuals in the novels, very inspiring, who would achieve the best they can do, whether it's building a bridge, seeing to it that trains ran on time, building skyscrapers, whatever, or making a hamburger. Whatever it is that anybody was doing, they would put into it and achieve incredible competence at it. And the thesis in objectivism is that the virtue of productiveness, that's where our pride, our meaning in life comes from, to be productive. And the individuals, they were productive even under tremendous adversity, was still extremely productive. There was the concept of rational self-interest, capitalism, individuality, reason, volition, selfishness. Some of the other characteristics of the characters, they were always deep. There was meaningful conversations. You know, I would say inherent in the philosophy of objectivism. It's not an explicit principle but I'm offering it as an explicit principle in objectivistic philosophy is meaningful conversation, depth. It was inherent in the novels, but in the lectures and the development of the system, it was never specifically mentioned. I'm mentioning it now in terms of advancing the objectivistic philosophy. Meaningful conversation, not squandering our words, not wasting. And then I developed the concept of respectfully real communication, which is really the statement, and I offer it to objectivism, that you have the right to be who you really are. And all her characters were their true identity, even though there was tremendous opposition. They were who they really were. So the fundamental concept of respectfully real communication is you have the right to be who you really are. That's your right. As long as the expression of your true self is done in a respectfully real manner. I coined the term respectfully real. I have a trademark on it. And respectfully real communication, you have the right to be who you really are as long as your communication is done in a respectfully real manner. That is with kindness, wisdom, and respect to boundaries. I like to give it this example for respectfully real communication. And it's different than real. So what I'm bringing to objectivism is the concept of respectfully real communication, where we have the inherent right to be our true selves. So somebody might say, I just want to be real, bro. I think you're stupid and ugly, and I don't even want to see you again. I'm just being real, okay? That's being real. It's being honest. He's being honest, right? That's what he really thinks. But respectful real communication would go something like this, hypothetically. When you said what you did, I felt hurt. And if you could find it in your heart to apologize, I'd be grateful. That builds a bridge or a connection. That's another dimension of respectful real communication, builds a bridge or a connection, as opposed to a wall or a barrier. So again, it's a communication with kindness, wisdom, and respect of boundaries. So I bring the concept of respectful real communication, which was really inherent to objectivism, but never explicitly said it, and I'm bringing that now. And you have when you're being who you really are, you're going to be deep. You're going to be talking from here. You're going to be talking about what really matters. Whether it's building that bridge or a money transaction or an issue going on in your family or an issue you have with a coworker or your superior at work, it's going to be respectfully, really, it's going to be a deep conversation. You have that option. Now, nobody wants to have deep conversation all the time. We found in interviewing 1,800 people at the Nuremberg Institute that most people like to have at least 50% of the time deep and 50% of the time superficial. Right now, in society as it exists now, 95% of the time is superficial, 5% deep. People want to change that. We also found that once a superficial conversation got going, there's what was called a lock-in. It's locked in. You can't get out of it. The only way you can get out of that superficial conversation is you got to leave, excuse yourself, and get away from that group or that person. But people want to have it fluid. They want to go from deep to superficial and be able to go back and forth. And in the old social contract that we're born into, only certain subjects were socially appropriate. Now, in the new social contract, which would apply certainly for objectivism, is that everything's socially appropriate to talk about. Anything and everything, as long as it's done in a respectfully real manner. That is with kindness, wisdom, and respect to boundaries. So I offer that as a contribution and as an advance in the philosophy of objectivism, and certainly in terms of adding to the quality of your lives and learning this communication pattern, a way of talking to each other. Now, it's been a while since I've read the novels, but you know, there's certain kind of communications that the Ayn Rand characters, I don't remember any of them ever doing. And to have respectful communication, you certainly have to know how to have this, what I'm about to tell you. First, you need to realize that under all negative emotions, whether it's anger, aloofness, distance, is always vulnerability. The person feels hurt, neglected, abandoned, humiliated, inferior, overwhelmed, jealous, always 100% of the time. Now, one thing in the Ayn Rand characters, you never heard somebody saying, I feel hurt, I feel hurt, I feel humiliated, I'm jealous, I feel insecure, I feel abandoned, I need some attention. It didn't fit the kind of character she had. They were still very inspiring. But you know, you had the idea of trains and steel and industrialists, extremely powerful, but it was almost like the characters had steel in them. And there was not that expression of vulnerability. So I'm bringing also to objectivism the human condition to be able to be vulnerable and still be extremely productive, extremely. Certainly, there's no strength in being vulnerable. If a person's feeling hurt, humiliated, that's not strong. Covering it up doesn't make it strength. If you have a weakness and you feel hurt, you feel humiliated, you took something personally maybe you shouldn't have, that's weakness. To cover it up doesn't make it strength. To get angry doesn't make it strength. To get distant doesn't make it strength. It's even weaker. So what most people do is they take already something that feels weak and they weaken themselves further and feel they've got to cover it up. That doesn't mean you got to tell everybody, hey, I feel hurt, I feel humiliated. But certainly to have that option in a communication, especially in intimate relationships. You know, you look at John Wayne, or the hero, or Clint Eastwood, or any of the heroes we've seen on television, you know, the tough guy, macho guys. You never ever heard them say, hey, I'm sorry, forgive me, I feel hurt, I felt humiliated, I was just jealous. No, they come out punching, shooting, whatever. Well, the Ayn Rand characters are a variation of that. You don't feel the vulnerability. And that's lacking in the system. The characters could have more vulnerability expressed and dealt with in a constructive way and still had that enormous power. But it's very inspiring. The characters, I have to tell you, were brilliant and very inspiring. So the title of today is The True Meaning of Life. Well, what is the true meaning of life? It's very much intertwined in her concept of the virtue of productiveness. Being productive is not only the source of self-esteem and pride, it actually has enshrined in it the meaning of life. But I'm going to expand in objectivism, expand as a psychologist and as a philosopher, what it is to be productive. Now, in the Ayn Rand characters, the productiveness was the industrialist, the entrepreneur. Powerful individuals adding enormous well-being to the whole planet for selfish reasons, but nonetheless people benefiting. Without them, society would have just collapsed. Building a railroad, making steel, building skyscrapers. This is power. These were people that could get things done that anybody would respect. Now, so she's talking about the virtue of productiveness in an external sense in the physical world. No question, survival, producing goods, steel, foods, bridges, trains, all good. Not enough. No, not enough. It was good for that time when she wrote it, but it's time now to have a huge advance in the whole philosophy of objectivism so that it becomes a fuller, more potent system. Because what I'm here to say is that the physical productiveness, as vital as it is, as important as it is, as important as it is for the advancement of civilization, to come to the point now with all the inventions and material things that we have that gave us the free time to even have better medical care, have more literacy, to have more leisure time. It made so many things possible, and we owe it all to these entrepreneurs, the industrialists, enormous debt to these individuals, and that's stressed, very highly emphasized in objectivism. But it's now time to go beyond that, to stand on the shoulders of those giants and go beyond. Without that, we wouldn't be able to go to the next stage, but now we're ready for the next stage. What is the next stage? The next stage is inner productiveness. Inner productiveness, the productiveness of our thought and our feeling and our inner reality. That's the next stage, and we're going to talk about how do we deal with that. How do we build a skyscraper of thought and of well-being? How do you build a bridge, an inner bridge between you and other people? Well, the bridge, building these bridges, the external bridge is incredible. But how do you build a bridge between you and another person? How do you do that? I've developed a full technology of how to do this. And the way, in terms of building a bridge to another human being, which is so vital for all of us, we all need a bridge to one another. We all desperately need one another. As a matter of fact, if you were the only person alive on this earth and could build all the bridges and all the steel and all the trains, you wouldn't even do it if you were the only person. It have no meaning to you. It only has meaning because you need other people to share that with. Now, in the Ayn Rand characters, you don't see that neediness, that we're so interdependent, that desperation of we needing another human being. But now it's time to understand, how do you build a bridge between you and another human being? And the way to do it is respectful, real communication. The right to be who you really are. If you're not being who you are, you're building a bridge what? Between a mask and another mask? A false identity and another false identity? That's not a bridge. That's just a scam going on between two play actors in a movie, in a play. Just two people playing the part of being a human being, but not really being human. So you have being our true selves, as long as the expression is done in a respectfully real manner, with kindness, with wisdom, and respect of boundaries. This is now building a bridge. And at that one time, we needed bridges to connect land masses. We needed it to transport goods and to be able to visit and do our business. We need it. But those bridges in society, it's been good, but without knowing how to make an inner bridge, people are just disconnected. People are still having wars and killing because people don't know how to build that bridge. How do you build a bridge between a Muslim and a Christian or a Catholic? How do you build a bridge between Russia and America? How do you build these bridges? Respectful communication is an important part of it. So as the communication, the technology of interpersonal communication to respectful communication, which often, but not always, involves being able to talk of vulnerability. You know, imagine if the leader of America and the leader of, say, Trump now and Putin, I don't think they could have this conversation. Hey, Putin, you know, if you give me this, I give you that. If you don't give me, I'm going to look bad to my people. I'm going to have a problem here. Could you, you know, what can I do for you? I won't get reelected if this happens. What can we do? This is what I'm dealing with. And then they talk about it. Yeah, I need to do this. My people are about to revolt against me. We're starving in Russia. Can you do that? And they treat each other with respect through the conversation. It really helped between us and the Russians. Many of these communications are needed. How to build a bridge. How to build a bridge between people, between a husband and wife, between a parent and a child, between employees, between an employer and employee. How do you build that bridge, respectful, real communication? And I have the full technology for how to do that, but you need to understand the concept of vulnerability, understand the concept of respectfully real. So we're talking now about the inner development, inner productiveness. Now, the characters and objectivism, which are brilliant. I can't tell how inspiring they are. Extremely inspiring. But the characters there, they achieve tremendous control within their specialization. Nobody could build a bridge better than this one. No one could make a skyscraper better than this one. No one could make better steel than that one. They've mastered it. And you couldn't stop these people. The tremendous perseverance. Perseverance. But what I bring now in terms of the virtue of productivity, I will show you how to be productive and create your own thoughts. How to create a house to live in 24/7. So they can build a skyscraper that you go to, you have an office there 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. But I'll help you build a house that you live in 24 hours, 7 days a week. I'll help you build that house. I'll help you build a house to live in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm going to show you how to build that house. Is that productive or is that not productive? That's productive. Building that skyscraper is pretty good, isn't it? Well, what's more important? To have a beautiful house that you live in 24/7 or that skyscraper you go to 8 hours a day? The 24/7 house where you're living. So we're now ready to take the idea of productiveness to go beyond the physical. Now, at that time, we needed to hear about the dignity of that kind of initiative and dedication and perseverance. We needed to hear that, but now we're ready to add, how do you build that inner world, the inner house to live in, the inner mansion to live in? How do we build that? And I have the full technology. I'm going to show you how to do it right now. But we're going to be talking about how to build that inner world. But that inner world is made of what? Thoughts. It's also made of your cellular physiology. Most people have no idea how to control and build a healthy cellular physiology. No. So you have people who don't know how to create a universe of thoughts that will be life-giving, nor create a universe of inner physiology that's life-giving. Is that being productive or not? Because I'm going to tell you about both. Now, in terms of how to build the inner cellular physiology, you have to understand your own blood. I mean, my goodness, how many people even understand their blood, which is the carrier of life, the oxygen and all the nutrients, and all the biomarkers of what could go wrong. Most of the biomarkers of what could go wrong in your body are indicated in your blood. Your blood's carrying proteins, so many different enzymes and proteins and antibodies, and so much is going on in your blood that if you don't understand the reality of your own blood, but you can know how to make this pen, and that's a wonderful thing, but you're dead after you live 60 years. Well, what's more important, to know how to live to 100 or to know how to live to 50 and make a good pen? Well, if you don't know how to build that foundation of your own physiology, what do you have? You can have $10 million in the bank, you worked hard, you did all these things, but if you don't have your health, what do you have? Listen, my dad and I came up with this saying when he was still living, was this: man spends his health in search of wealth, and then spends his wealth in search of health. Man spends his health in search of wealth, and then spends his wealth in search of health. That $10 million from building those skyscrapers and making the best trains and the best steel, but you're dead at 60 years old or 50 years old. The health, you're stroking out and having heart attacks and diabetic and needing amputations and going blind. It's time to then go beyond the concept of just being productive in terms of building things, which again, we needed that when Ayn Rand wrote that, but now it's time advances in the philosophy of objectivism. So some of the biomarkers, certainly you want to understand about your body, about your cellular physiology. You want to always shoot for, you want to always have optimal levels of what's going on internally. You don't want to be normal. Normal will get you dead fast compared to optimal. For example, you need a vitamin D level internally between 50 and 80. If it's less than 50, you're going to have a shorter lifespan. If it's less than 30, you're more prone to every disease known to mankind. Diabetes, asthma, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, all of it. Less than 50. Now, if it goes to 100, it's toxic. So you want to be, when you get a blood workup, you want to get your blood work to 50 to 80. How do you do that? You just can't, you're not going to get enough sunlight. You need to take vitamin D3. Generally speaking, about 4,000 IUs, maybe 6,000. Depends on your body weight. And you got to get your blood tested twice a year to keep navigating how to build this solid foundation of health. So to have knowledge of how to make a skyscraper, how to make a train, how to make steel, and now how to make yourself live a long, healthy life, it's time now to have an advance in the philosophy of objectivism. Your blood glucose level. If it's over 126 and higher, you have diabetes. But let me tell you something. It's considered normal under 100. But the truth is, if it's over 85, you're going to have a shorter lifespan. Optimal is 75, or 70 to 75 to 85. So you want it under 85. If it's as high as 95, which is considered normal, you're more prone to Alzheimer's. So you're building these skyscrapers, you're making the best pens, you're making the best cars and best trains. And then at 70 years old, you have Alzheimer's, you don't know what you did. Oh, you made that building. Well, what's died me? Who are you? I'm your daughter. Really? You're my daughter. What good is it? So you're building all this stuff, and you're running into Alzheimer's. Well, you need to know that having a tablespoon of coconut oil, at least one tablespoon a day, can help offset it, and so can niacinamide. Coconut, extra virgin coconut oil. Yeah, a lot of research on that. And niacinamide will help with that. But here's the thing. And even if a person has Alzheimer's, there's indications that the coconut oil can help reverse it. The amyloid tau tangles that go on the brain can be reversed. You need to know about these things. You need to know, well, how do you bring blood sugar down? Metformin is a miracle drug. It'll not only bring down your blood sugar, if you're diabetic, you get a prescription. It helps prevent different cancers. It's a miracle drug. But if you're not at a diabetic level, berberine, 500 milligrams 3 times a day. Cinnamon, 6 capsules 3 times a day. Bitter melon, gymnema, banaba. These things will all bring down your blood sugar level. Natural ways to do it. And the magic bullet of all, exercise. Exercise with the GLUT4 enzymes will just shuttle that in right into your muscles without even needing insulin to do that. So you need to understand that. You need to know that in terms of building that foundation, that skyscraper, that house at a physiological cellular level, you need to know that the foundation, in terms of disease, inflammation. If you have chronic inflammation, you're more prone to cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, arthritis, and all of them. The indicator of that, when you get a blood workup, you tell the doc, listen, I want to get my C-reactive protein, CRP. You don't want it above 1, 3, you're in trouble. You want to keep it less than 0.2, preferably. Well, how do you cut down your inflammation? Well, fish oil, 6,000 milligrams a day in divided dosages will help do that. Curcumin. Curcumin will help prevent cancers, inflammation, also helps with anxiety and depression. Curcumin, life extension has a good one. Bioaccumulants, very, very bioavailable. Curcumin, ginger, and garlic, naturally anti-inflammatories. Grapeseed extract. Pycnogenol, all naturally anti-inflammatories. To know how to make a better pen and know how to control your blood is not rational. And let me tell you, the essence of objectivism is rationality. It is not rational to know how to make a good vase or make a train and not know how to make a good body, not knowing how to make good blood, not knowing how to make good muscle. Is that rational? To build that skyscraper and not know how to build your body? It's irrational. So now we're ready for this advance in objectivism philosophy, health. Health. Now, I'm just giving you some of the parameters of this health, but now we're going to talk about the thoughts of building, of how to build the best thoughts, because you're living in your body and in your thoughts 24/7. And certainly exercise is key for having this health, absolutely key. And Dr. Nuremberg's 4 laws of exercise and staying fit are these. Never quit. Whatever your exercise routine is, never quit, no excuses. The best time to work out is now and the worst time is later. I'm a world champion bodybuilder, a world champion powerlifter. It took me 60 years to articulate that. 60 years. Never quit, no excuses. Best time to work out is now, worst time is later. You follow that, you'll always maintain a reasonable amount of fitness. And know this, the hardest part about getting in shape and exercise is getting started. It's harder to go from 0 minutes to 5 minutes than it is from 5 minutes to an hour. So you want to do at least 5 minutes of exercise a day, because that way you're in motion. It's easier to go from 5 minutes to an hour than 0 minutes to 5 minutes, because getting started. And you need to think differently about a gym. Say, well, I have a membership in a gym. Yeah, it's true. But you have membership on this earth. The earth is the universal gym. You can always go down the floor, go down the earth, wherever, do push-ups, do leg raises, do knee bends, do jumping jacks, do push-ups, whatever. You don't have to go change your clothes, drive 20 minutes there and back. It's right there, your gym is there. So that's why I say the best time to work out is now. You need to reconceptualize the gym. The earth is your gym. The floor is your gym. No excuses. That's your gym. Boom, down now, not later. Absolutely. You can be doing your stretching. I'm doing at the photocopy machine. I'll just start doing some stretching, keeping the blood going. I keep it going. I'm going to my legs back now, getting some hamstring stretches. You just do it. Just wherever you are, you incorporate it. Get some things happen. Keep the blood going in the shoulders. You want to keep that blood flowing. You need movement. One of the things that's killing people at an early age is not moving. You sit in one spot, not moving. So you want to be moving. If you're at your desk, you want some amount of time moving. You can leave a gripper, just be squeezing that gripper. Have a tennis ball, be doing that. You have to know how to build yourself. Building a car, building steel, building a skyscraper, building a train track is just not enough. It's time for these advances in the philosophy of objectivism, and certainly you need to know this in terms of your personal lives, whether you're a follower of objectivistic philosophy or not. You need to understand these things. You need to understand that the meaning of life is contained in the virtue of being productive, in terms of being physically productive, but also in terms of the inner attributes. You have two purposes in life. One is to be productive in terms of contributing to society, adding value to the world. That's an outer one. That's one of your purposes in life, is to be contributing and adding value to the world, doing something meaningful with your life. That's one of the purposes in your life. The other is the development of your inner self, building that beautiful inner mansion that will enhance you psychologically, spiritually, and strengthen your psychological immune system. You have a psychological immune system that's strengthened by your thoughts or weakened by your thoughts. And your thoughts are always speaking, always, to your epigenes that are on every cell membrane. And your epigenes owe communication constantly with your genes. So you have some genes that cause cancer and other diseases. You want those suppressed. You have some genes like the P53 that will actually fight cancer. You want that expressed. And so you want to optimize your communication through your epigenes into your genetic makeup. And the way to do that is having thoughts, constructive thoughts that will activate. And if you're getting stressed out all the time, you're going to be turning on genes that'll kill you. You get heart attacks. People who are chronically angry just die more likely of heart attack or stroke than people who don't have chronic anger. We know for a fact that the emotional state affects every illness there is through cortisol secretion, through your hormonal balance, through interfering with your sleep, interfering with your digestion. So in terms of strengthening your psychological immune system, you have to understand about your psychological immune system. What is the essence of the psychological immune system? How is it destroyed? The essence of the psychological immune system is one word: perspective. When you lose perspective, that's the source of all stress. Oh, I see the nature of reality. I understand the epistemological, metaphysical dimensions of life. Life consists of, I lost my job. Life consists of, I'm broke. Life consists of, I have cancer. Life consists of, my significant other left me. All of which are terrible and true in different cases. But certainly there's an infinite number of things to be grateful for. The loss of perspective, the loss of gratitude. Well, I've got that finger, that finger, that finger, that finger, that finger, this eye, that eye. I'm in good health. My loved ones are in good health. Infinite number of what to be grateful for. Loss of perspective. So your psychological immune system is intricately tied to your perspective. If you lose perspective, you're going to be at a weakened state, and it'll weaken your physical immune system. Physical immune system that helps to fight off different pathogens. You need to know also physical ways to fight those pathogens. You need to understand the probiotics, the bifidus, the acidophilus that already live with us. As human beings, we've got billions and billions of little creatures that live in us productively, in a symbiotic relationship with us of bacteria that help fight off the pathogenic bacteria. So you want to have yogurt or fermented foods, yogurt or kimchi, sauerkraut, or you can take a pill, a probiotic pill. You want to be strengthening your immune system. You want to be able to get some reishi, you want to get mushrooms that help your immune system and help build up the T cells in our body. So you need to understand how to build your psyche, how to build your body, how to build the house that is you, the physical house that is you, the body that you have, the psyche that you have, understanding you have a psychological immune system interacting with your physical immune system. Now, the best thoughts, I've discovered the full technology of how to internalize thoughts, 23 factors of how to internalize a thought. Having a thought is not enough. Having a New Year's resolution is not enough. Within a month, people even forgot what that resolution was. The only way to live the truth that will set you free, the only way, there's no other way to live the truth that will set you free, is you have to remind yourself every day, 3 times a day, of that truth. Let me say it again. The only way to live the truth that will set you free is you have to remind yourself of that truth 3 times a day, every day of your life. And you have to be willing to make a commitment, say, yes, I will repeat these truths 3 times a day, every day of my life. If you don't do that, if you fail to take that pledge, I guarantee you this lecture I'm giving you with this very valuable knowledge, worthless. You'll forget it just like that. A month, 3 months, 6 months, 10 years, you say, what was that doctor's name? Or what did he say again? He said something good. What was that? A year later, you'll probably be saying something like, hey, Joe, remember, what's that doctor's name? Oh, Nierenberg. Yeah, what did he say? He said something pretty good. What was it? I don't know. You won't remember anything. You're busy. You got a million things on your mind. You got to pay your bills. You got to take care of the kids, your parents, or you go to your work. You're going to forget it. You got to repeat these truths 3 times a day for life. And as soon as you stop repeating them, you're going to regress into more stressful reactions to life, overreacting. Because when you lose perspective, you overreact. Now, there's 29 thoughts I've discovered. Now, it's key to internalizing a thought to repeat them 3 times a day. The focus when we're doing, you take a deep breath, close your eyes, and repeat it. So you're really listening to yourself do it. So there's a frequency, there's the focus on it. And then there's also ways of reminding yourself, whether leaving stickers around or just telling yourself to do it. I'm going to give you the thoughts. But within objectivism, we very much emphasize the power of volition. But what I want to bring to objectivism is a demonstration of volition. I'm going to demonstrate to you a power that you have, that only humans have. No other species has this power of volition, none. Other species can do problem solving, stimulus response, emotion, but they cannot do this one thing. They cannot choose their thoughts, and you can. Now, let me demonstrate to you in a very concrete way the power of volition. This enormous power, I'm going to demonstrate it right now, and I bring this to the whole philosophy of objectivism. Right now, have a pleasant memory. Think of something you ate today or a person you saw that you loved, something you ate that you enjoyed. Have that thought right now. Okay. Now, I know you did it naturally, rapidly. And every one of you did. I don't have to ask if you did. If you ask a 6-year-old to do it, a 6-year-old could do it. And I know that you weren't thinking about it before I asked you to do it. It was nowhere. It was invisible. Boom. It was in front of you. And now as I'm talking, it's gone again. So it's boom, boom. You had that thought. But look what you did. You chose the polarity. It was a positive thought. It was a pleasant thought. You can choose a pleasant, positive thought whenever you want. Just tell yourself to do it, and boom, there it is. You chose the time dimension. It wasn't the present or the future, it was the past. Right then you demonstrated that you have the power to do this. That's a demonstration of volition. I'm going to take it one step further now. Right now I'm going to ask you to have a certain thought, to repeat it 3 times. Have this thought 3 times. I wish you well. Repeat that silently to yourself 3 times. I know you did it effortlessly, flawlessly, naturally. Prior to my asking you to do that, you sure weren't thinking about that, and you're not thinking about it again. Boom, right, boom, and gone. So you can choose not only the polarity, the time dimension, you can choose the full content of your own thought. You can tell yourself to have any thought, and actually you want to feed yourself what? The worst thoughts? No. You want to feed yourself the best thoughts. What are the best thoughts? Well, that's what I spent 45 years discovering. The best thoughts. I know the best thoughts in the universe. I'm going to give you 4 of the most powerful. There's another 25. We'll do 4 right now. They go like this. I call them the 4 commandments of honor. Number 1 is, I seek always to serve my highest values. A person can use a variation of that. If honor is your highest value, as it is for me, then I choose honor above all else. But for those who are spiritual, and when you put God into the equation, God, your wish is my only wish. So it's either I seek always to serve my highest values, or I choose honor above all else. But if you want to spiritualize, you go, God, your wish is my only wish. That's commandment number 1, most powerful thoughts in the universe. Number 2, you already did it. I wish you well. And number 3, I take full responsibility for co-creating my reality and my problems. That'll take you so far. Put the power right in your own hands instead of squandering it and blaming others, keeping the power for yourself. And 4, I am grateful for the power I gain from hardship. I am grateful for the power I gain from hardship. And your hardship will never stop. Your failures will never stop. Your setbacks will never stop. Your tribulations, your crisis will never stop. Somebody's saying that's her favorite one. A lot of people have a favorite one. This is, I call it the warrior's commandment. The warrior seeks to gain power from hardship. Now with these commandments, you're able to keep the widest perspective, and the way you're building the architecture, you become the architecture of your own psyche and of your own being, is you then understand how to tell yourself the best true stories about your worst problems. How to tell yourself the best true stories about your worst problems. Because right now, you're telling yourself a lot of bad stories about your life. This one did this to me, he said that to me, she did this. If it wasn't for this person, this would be happening. And you're just reviewing every day all the terrible things going on in your life. I know you are. You've done it all your life. I did it most of my life. I don't do it anymore. All right? You're telling yourself a lot of bad stories. And let me tell you about those bad stories. They're killing you. Destroying the skyscraper, the mansion that you are. And you are a mansion, a magnificent mansion. You're taking a sledgehammer to that mansion, to your body, to your psyche every day and slamming the heck out of yourself every day. So know how to make a great car, a great bridge, a great skyscraper, and slamming the heck out of yourself all day with bad stories. It's irrational. Totally irrational. So, once you're a disciple of honor, you take the pledge to be a disciple of honor, it'll promote you telling yourself the best true stories about your worst problems. I had somebody come to see me, big, powerful guy, tattoos right up to his neck, rough-looking guy. In fact, he's called a roughneck. He works in the oil fields. They're called roughnecks. We're talking mean, tough-looking guy. And he says, Doc, I lost everything. Everything that mattered to me, I've lost. You can see how badly he felt. My wife left me for another man. Took my kids. I lost my kids. And then I lost my house. So he lost his wife, not just lost her to another man, lost his kids, and lost his house. And I said to him, from human to human, I feel great compassion for the sorrow you've gone through, the tribulation. I said, but for such a powerful looking man like you, that's a very wimpy story. He looked, what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, yeah, what if I told you, if we tell the full story, I'm talking to you, I can see what the full story is. What if I told you there's a way of talking about that? Instead of feeling sorry for yourself, you'll find dignity and nobility in you and anybody you tell the story to. He says, how is that possible? I said, do you want to hear the story or not? The full story. I said, of course. What is it? I've lost everything, but I've gained myself. I've lost everything, but I've gained myself. And you should have seen his face. It was beautiful. Oh, yeah. I have gained myself. Yeah, you could see it just setting in his eye. I have gained myself. And I looked at him and I said, behold, a true man is born before my very eyes. And I went over and I hugged him. And I said, I'm so proud of you. And he was floating. He just was floating out at the end of the session. He went up at the front desk and said, I lost everything, but I gained myself. Transformed. So rather than destroying and taking a sledgehammer, now it's true he lost everything. He didn't change. Listen, when he told himself the true story, he didn't get his wife back, didn't get his house back, didn't get his kids back from that story. He got himself back. Instead of destroying himself, he was now creating a beautiful mansion. That's him. I had a woman come in to see me a few weeks ago, a very fine lady, crying. Her son had been shot. In fact, he was shot 9 times. He was in stable condition in the hospital, just weeping, feeling terrible. I said, look, I have 7 kids. That's a parent's nightmare. That is a parent's nightmare. Really, I feel tremendous compassion for you and for your son. But what if I told you that if you tell yourself the best true story about that, it'll add nobility to your son. You can tell your son the story I'm going to tell you, and it'll make him happy. He says, what? He's been shot 9 times. It'll make him happy. It'll make him very happy. And it's going to make you happy. What can you say to make me happy? Doc, my son was just shot 9 times. She's looking at me like I'm crazy. I said, well, look, you want to hear it or not? I certainly do. I said, listen, here's the true story. They couldn't kill my son. They shot him 9 times. God has a purpose for his life. They couldn't kill my son. They shot him 9 times. Whoever heard again, he shot 9 times. Look, they shot my son 9 times. God has a purpose. I knew she was a deep believer in God. And if she didn't believe in God, we would have gone with, there's a purpose to his life. They couldn't kill my son. They shot him 9 times. There's a purpose in his life, a deep purpose. And that's why he's still alive. She went, if you can imagine now a woman whose son was shot 9 times, beaming with light. Beaming. And she's come to a few lectures since, beaming when I tell the story, just beaming. And I said to her, did you tell your son the story? She said, yes. How did he laugh? How did he react? He said he laughed. He liked it. It made him happy. They couldn't kill my son. They shot him 9 times. God has a purpose for him. Or the story could have been, they couldn't kill my son. They shot him 9 times. He's got a purpose to his life, to stay alive. Now, when you're doing that, you're building that mansion. You're preserving the integrity of your identity, of your whole being, and you're adding a nobility. Because you have to understand in the whole process that I've developed, the Nuremberg Legacy coaching model, Nuremberg Legacy therapy model, and counseling model is this. Enshrined within your deepest struggle, you need to understand this concept. Enshrined within your deepest struggle is the seed of your nobility, your destiny, and your legacy. And there's two tributaries that feed that river. One tributary is all things work for good for those who seek the good. All things work for good for those who seek the good. And hardship makes me strong and I'm grateful. Hardship makes me strong and I'm grateful. With that, you have the foundation of destiny, of legacy, and of nobility. Now, when we're talking about destiny, certainly in terms of a livelihood, I'm giving you this nomenclature, which I've said to you before. A job, that's job, career, calling, destiny. A job is something you do from 9 to 5 to pay your bills. Turns out very few people really want a job. A career is a job you really enjoy. A lot of people would like a career. A calling is a career you do for free if you could afford to. And a destiny is a calling you would actually pay to do it if you could afford to. For me, what I'm doing now is a destiny. And really, in terms of the true meaning of life, to achieve the true meaning of your life, you must serve your destiny. To be truly productive, because then it's not even work, it's all play, it's all good. I say to my patients, say, you pay me a lot of money to see you, but I want to ask you a question, answer honestly. Do I look like I'm working? Everyone has said, heck no, you don't look like you're working at all. I said, that's what I want for you. So to achieve the ultimate of productivity, the ultimate, you must serve your destiny. A job is good, but it's not enough. A career is good, but it's not enough. A calling is excellent and almost enough. A destiny. Now, whether you can make your livelihood at the destiny or not, it's another story, but you still find a way to serve it. For money or without money, preferably with money. Money matters tremendously within objectivism and within any normal human being's life. Money matters enormously. But not as much as your destiny. Not as much as your health. Let me say it again. Money is extremely important, but not more than your health. Now, money, and I offer this to objectivism, because money is tremendously emphasized, as it should be, in objectivism. But we need to go further. I'm preparing to offer this to objectivism philosophy. Money is worthless, absolutely meaningless and worthless unless it's earned with honor. If the money is earned without honor, that is, let's say selling Twinkies, tobacco, things that hurt people, and you become a multi-trillionaire, I say that money is dirty money. I call that money worthless. The money has to be earned in a way that brings honor. Money with honor is really the goal. Not just the money, but money with honor. We're adding real value, adding something constructive. So I offer that in terms of the philosophy of objectivism. That money is super important, but it must be with honor. If you're a contract killer and you're making your money that way and you become rich and you're using that money to hire architects to build those skyscrapers and whatnot, and there's no honor in that money. If you get that money, you give half of it to charity. There's still no honor in it. It was earned by killing people. So we're talking about the meaning of life tied into the virtue of productiveness. We're expanding productiveness to be outer productiveness, cellular productiveness, psychological, and even what you could call spiritual productiveness in these ways. And you have to then understand the 4 commandments of honor, which is, God, your wish is my only wish. I seek always to serve my highest values. I wish you well. I take full responsibility for co-creating my reality and my problems, and I'm grateful for the power I gain from watching. Then we have the pledge as disciples of honor, and certainly as objectivists, I offer the pledge where people commit to those 4 commandments of honor for all the days of their life. For those, now raise your right hands. You're going to repeat after me. As a disciple of honor, I pledge myself for all the days of my life to the 4 commandments of honor. And I'll teach them to those I love. I'll repeat them every morning, afternoon, and evening. And I'll listen to myself recite them. Welcome, welcome to the disciples of honor. Welcome to the brotherhood of the disciples of honor. Welcome to the sisterhood of disciples of honor. You made that pledge. All people who call themselves objectivists should be taking that pledge. to be disciples of honor. I offer the disciples of honor as an integral part of the philosophy of objectivism. And understand that honor, three dimensions of honor, has to do with integrating the masculine and feminine principle with noble character. The essence of the feminine principle is love and nurturance, but the essence of the masculine principle is arising to the struggle. Arising to the struggle. That's what honor is about, arising to the struggle. And that's certainly part of objectivism, arising to the struggle. But I'm putting that explicitly forth as a part of objectivism. And the noble character has to do with keeping your word, loyalty, compassion, wisdom, service to family, community, and for those who believe in God, to God. And then we want to integrate that with your losses and your gains, which will always be there. You're always going to be losing, you're always going to be gaining, with your joys and your sorrows, into a constructive perspective, and that's what I'm calling wisdom. So within this context, I offer the concept of wisdom as one of the premises, one of the tenets of the philosophy of objectivism. Wisdom as integrating our gains and our losses, our joys and our sorrows into a constructive perspective. Objectivism without wisdom is empty. Objectivism without honor is empty. Objectivism with only physical productiveness is empty. Objectivism must have honor, wisdom, and external and physical productiveness coupled with cellular productiveness and internal productiveness of thought. I'm offering this to the philosophy of objectivism as an advance within objectivism. Now, certainly within objectivism, as we get older, we actually have more to offer. We're gaining in wisdom, we're gaining in understanding, we're gaining in more competence. So you want to extend your life as long as possible. You certainly want to keep the telomeres, which are the caps on the chromosomes, as long as possible. The shorter they get, the cells go into senescence. When they go into senescence, they give out pro-inflammatory chemicals, which will create inflammation and be destructive to you. You want those telomeres, their telomerase activity to be high. You want the telomeres to be as long as possible. You can achieve this by calorie restriction, called CR, calorie restriction, cutting your calories down by 25%. Or you can take what are called CR mimetics, resveratrol, quercetin, pterostilbene, whey protein, grapeseed extract. These will actually promote telomerase activity and extend the length and keep them from shortening of your telomeres. So certainly having a long, healthy, happy life is a very important part of a philosophy of objectivism. So the person can go on enjoying life and in terms of extending the period of rational self-interest. And it is not rational to not do these things. It's irrational. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. If you have a comment or question, I'll give you an opportunity to do that. I'll have to repeat your comment or question since you don't have the microphone. What are your thoughts about what you're hearing, Bianca?
I appreciate you going over this.
So you appreciate hearing it. What is of value to you in this?
The piece that you mentioned, particularly about productivism and how, I guess, tying together the physiological aspects of productivism with
Yes.
psychological and how they both.
That's actually the essence, tying together physiological and psychological dimensions of productiveness. And that's very good summary of the lecture, really adding that to your lives, adding it certainly to the philosophy of objectivism. We have some very deep, profound thinkers here today, but a lot of times it's hard to just put out what your thoughts and feelings are. What are some of your reactions that you've had during the course of our lecture?
The blood,
The blood,
the almost healthy blood leads to a healthier life. So
the importance of your blood.
your blood puts it through your body. And then connecting that to your mind, whatever you feed your mind, it helps your blood.
Whatever you feed your mind will help your blood. And by the way, in terms of the foods that you eat, you want to eat a lot of plants, and you want to eat natural foods, not processed foods. You want to follow those two things. Plants, a lot of plants, and just natural foods, not processed foods. In terms of extending your life, extending and maximizing where you're getting optimal blood work, optimal effects on your own blood. You are the architects of your blood. You're not a victim of disease, you're the cause of it. You have the right, with taking responsibility for your life, to have the knowledge of how to optimize your own blood. You can build the bloodstream that you feel you deserve. But you have to take some initiative. You can't just be passive. You have to go after it. You have to persevere. You have to get the blood test. You have to know how to use these different foods and supplements and exercise and thoughts to optimize your own blood. Because all the money that you're working for, and it's certainly worthwhile to work for that money, is useless. You know, if you're inflamed and you're having high sugar, and you're running into hypertension, then what good is it all? Well, it's certainly been my privilege and my pleasure to talk to you today about the true meaning of life, advances in the philosophy of objectivism. Thank you for being here. Thank you.